We often hear that we should be kind, that our empathy and compassion can make the world a better place. Yet few people openly discuss the potential dangers of being too generous. In reality, living in a world full of different personalities and hidden motives means we don't always receive what we give. Repeatedly extending ourselves financially, emotionally, or otherwise can leave us drained, disappointed, and even at risk of serious harm. The paradox is clear. Kindness can bring enormous benefits, but when taken to extremes, it may backfire and jeopardize our well-being. In this piece, we'll explore 8 adverse outcomes that can arise when we're excessively kind. We'll also draw on Stoic philosophy, particularly the wisdom of ancient thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, to glean insights on how to set healthy limits, remain virtuous, and protect our peace of mind. Finally, we'll present 4 robust strategies to prevent others from taking advantage of you, reinforcing the boundaries you need for a balanced life. Stoicism isn't about abandoning generosity. Instead, it focuses on understanding moderation, self-control, and the pursuit of happiness, rooted in reason and self-respect. Whether you're a naturally empathic individual who thrives on helping others, or someone who simply wants to strike a healthier balance in interpersonal relationships, these lessons can serve as practical guidelines. True generosity, after all, should illuminate your life rather than overshadow it. Let's begin by examining the hidden pitfalls of being overly kind, and then we'll address what you can do to safeguard your emotional and mental health. Number 1. You will have unrealistic expectations of others. One of the key dangers of excessive kindness is raising your hopes too high about how people will reciprocate. Stoic philosophers remind us that relying on others for our happiness is a precarious path. Epictetus once said that we should focus on controlling what is within our own power, our actions, choices, and attitudes, and accept that external events, including how people respond to our kindness, lie beyond our direct control. When you give too much, you subconsciously expect others to do the same in return. Instead, people often become accustomed to your constant support. They may assume you can handle everything, your own problems plus theirs, because you've always done so. Consider how relationships evolve over time. If you shower others with help or resources, they may begin seeing it as normal rather than extraordinary. That is not necessarily a moral failing on their part. It's human nature to adapt to the patterns around us. We might think, I've been there for them at 2 a.m. with a phone call or a ride home, so they'll be there for me in my darkest hour too. But that mental contract often exists only in your imagination. From a Stoic perspective, you can give without strings attached, understanding that true generosity should stem from your character rather than an expectation of reciprocal treatment. While it feels good to be recognized, your emotional balance should not hinge on others mirroring your kindness. Number 2, people will come to expect constant giving. When you're too kind too often, people might start expecting your generosity as a fixed part of their environment. Stoicism emphasizes moderation in being charitable, in finances, and even in emotional investment, so that we remain in control of our actions rather than driven by compulsion. If you consistently solve other people's problems or perform their responsibilities, they enter a comfort zone where you're the go-to person. Their habits shift as they rely on you to pick up the slack. In practical terms, this dynamic can create codependent relationships. You feel valuable only when you are providing assistance, and they feel validated because someone always caters to their needs. Eventually, you'll find that people might not even ask if you're okay or offer help in return because they've been conditioned to see you as the eternal giver. Over time, this dynamic erodes mutual respect. It's akin to always paying for dinner when going out with friends. If you pay every single time, it's only natural for them to become used to it. Before you know it, the mere suggestion that someone else pick up the tab might cause confusion or resentment. To maintain healthier boundaries, the Stoics would suggest balancing your generosity with practicality. You can give, but not to the point of depletion, be it emotional, financial, or otherwise. Number 3, your own goals will be overlooked. Being perpetually kind can inadvertently push your priorities to the back burner. The Stoics champion the idea that virtue comes from living in harmony with reason, which includes setting your own objectives and not neglecting personal duties for the sake of others. Always placing others first may indicate that you're running away from personal fears or internal struggles. Over time, you might neglect your well-being, further damaging your mental and emotional stability. When you've spent all day catering to someone else, whether it's your children, colleagues, or neighbors, your own passion projects, fitness routines, or even rest get pushed aside. Some individuals use excessive giving as a distraction from loneliness or self-doubt, but eventually, you'll have to face your own life. And by that time, you might be physically exhausted, emotionally drained, and full of regrets. Adopting a Stoic approach means asking yourself each day, have I fulfilled my primary duties to myself? Duties to yourself include self-care, goal achievement, and healthy reflection. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's crucial to ensure you are in good shape, physically, mentally, and emotionally, before trying to fill anyone else's cup. Number 4, you may be perceived as weak. A common misunderstanding is that nice people are always pushovers. Stoic teachings encourage strength of character and self-discipline. When you set boundaries, you communicate that your kindness is a choice, not a flaw. If you never say no, others might view you as powerless or easily manipulated. The moment you finally do say no, people often react with newfound respect, but sometimes also with confusion or anger. Contrary to popular belief, setting limits can actually enhance others' respect for you. Imagine a scenario where a coworker frequently passes their tasks on to you at the last minute. If you never speak up, they'll keep doing it. However, if you calmly but firmly say, I can't handle any extra work right now, you display self-respect. This shift from constant acquiescence to assertiveness can be jarring to them, but it's necessary for long-term mutual respect. Stoicism encourages us to remain in control of our faculties, responding rather than reacting. A firm stance need not be aggressive. In fact, polite but decisive boundary setting often carries more authority than shouting or losing your temper. Number 5, people will approach you only when they want something. Another serious drawback of overkindness is attracting those who see you merely as a resource. Instead of forging genuine relationships, you become the convenient solution to their needs, like an ATM or a personal problem solver. Under Stoic principles, we should practice discernment, using wisdom to differentiate between people who genuinely need help and those who only want to exploit us. This scenario often unfolds in friendships where you're the one always lending money or providing emotional support. Over time, people who don't have your best interests at heart may circle around, sensing that you never refuse. It might begin innocently, a favor here, a small favor there, but soon you realize you've become the go-to problem solver. One way to test this is noticing if you ever receive spontaneous calls or texts from these individuals just to say hello, check on you, or invite you out for fun. If not, it's a sign that their primary motivation might be what they can gain, not the bond you share. In a balanced relationship, giving and receiving should be mutual in terms of effort, though not necessarily always in monetary terms. Number 6. You risk attracting energy vampires. Constantly giving can deplete your own reserves. Stoicism promotes equanimity, a balanced state of mind that isn't easily disturbed by external demands. If you stretch your kindness too thin, your emotional frequency might drop, leaving you vulnerable to energy vampires. When you're perpetually drained, you operate at a lower vibrational frequency. In such a state, opportunistic or negative individuals may be drawn to you because they sense your emotional exhaustion. Energy vampires often feed on emotional generosity. They frequently complain or dramatize problems, rarely seeking solutions. Stoics maintain that we should use reasoned judgment to decide when to engage and when to abstain. If someone repeatedly transfers their negativity onto you without ever showing efforts to improve, it's likely an unproductive connection. Observe your mood after interactions with such people. Do you feel uplifted, neutral, or utterly drained? If the latter, it's time to reevaluate just how much you're willing to give. Remember, you can still be compassionate without becoming someone's emotional dumping ground. Number 7. You could fall into addictive habits. When too much giving intersects with personal stress or exhaustion, it can trigger unhealthy coping mechanisms. Stoicism values self-control and teaches that true freedom arises from managing our impulses and desires sensibly. Neglecting your own needs might lead to feelings of emptiness or stress that you attempt to soothe through substance abuse, overeating, or other harmful habits. Perhaps after a day of non-stop caretaking, you notice you formed a habit of overeating late at night or pouring an extra glass of wine or 3. Sometimes the help you extend to others becomes your excuse to neglect self-care, because I'm too busy to cook healthy meals or exercise. Slowly, addictive patterns creep in: gambling, alcohol dependency, mindless shopping, etc. A Stoic approach involves recognizing these tendencies early. Marcus Aurelius often reflected in his meditations on the importance of being vigilant about one's habits, calling for self-awareness in all aspects of life. If a trusted friend points out your shift toward destructive patterns, the Stoics would advise that you listen carefully, examine their critique, and see if it resonates with your reality. Avoid the knee-jerk reaction of denying the problem, and instead use it as an invitation to recalibrate. Number 8. Others may become suspicious of your kindness. Lastly, your unrelenting generosity can arouse suspicion. It sounds counterintuitive. Why would people question you for doing good? Yet, as the user text points out, genuine kindness can be so rare that some people assume you must have ulterior motives. The world doesn't always celebrate kindness. People sometimes doubt your intentions, believing that no one is this nice without a hidden reason. Stoicism advises us to remain virtuous regardless of external judgments, as true goodness isn't dependent on others' approval. This suspicion often arises in workplace environments or group settings where cynicism reigns. Colleagues might whisper, "What are they trying to get out of me?" Or, "Why are they so agreeable?" Maybe they want a promotion. This environment can cause stress for genuinely kind individuals, feeling they have to prove they aren't manipulative. Remember that your character stands on your consistent actions over time. People might misjudge you temporarily, but genuine decency and integrity often become evident in the long run. Stoicism teaches that external validation is fleeting. What matters is remaining steadfast in virtue. 4 tough strategies to keep people from taking advantage of you. Having explored the downside of overkindness, it's time to examine constructive ways to protect your well-being while maintaining a generous spirit. These 4 strategies incorporate Stoic principles: self-awareness, self-control, and rational discernment to help you navigate the line between kindness and self-sacrifice. Strategy 1. Pay attention to your emotional cues. Stoicism emphasizes introspection. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about daily self-examination, and Epictetus championed the practice of assessing our emotional states to identify if our actions align with our values. Notice if helping others drains you, leaves you feeling angry or resentful, or disrupts your personal life. These emotional markers may indicate you're giving too much. Emotions are often signals that something in our environment or behavior needs adjusting. If you experience chronic fatigue, resentment, or anxiety after supporting others, it's time to rebalance. A useful exercise is to keep a brief journal where you note how you felt after certain interactions. If you consistently feel depleted when assisting a particular individual or group, explore reducing or restructuring that assistance. Remember, being kind is supposed to enrich both you and the person you're helping, or at least not deplete you. If it's leaving you perpetually empty, that's a sign to recalibrate. Strategy 2. Do not fear the word no. Learning to say no is crucial in maintaining healthy boundaries. The Stoics often highlight the virtue of self-discipline, understanding that your time, energy, and emotional capacity are finite. Many people fear using no because it might feel unkind. However, constantly saying yes leads to an imbalance that fosters resentment and exhaustion. Practically speaking, you might find it easier to soften your no with a short statement. "I'm sorry, but I'm already at capacity right now. I'm afraid I can't do that. I hope you understand. I'd love to help, but this week is booked solid for me." While it might initially feel uncomfortable, especially if you're a people pleaser, setting these boundaries is in everyone's best interest. You'll preserve your well-being and ensure the times you do say yes come from a place of genuine availability and care, rather than reluctant obligation. Strategy 3. Dedicate non-negotiable time and space for yourself. To the Stoics, self-care isn't indulgent. It's a requirement for living a balanced life. If you fail to nurture yourself, your capacity to help others diminishes. Set aside time each day or week to do something that restores you, such as exercising, enjoying a hobby, or simply relaxing with a good movie and a cup of tea. Honor this time as if it were an important meeting or a doctor's appointment. Mark it on your calendar. And when someone asks for help that conflicts with your self-care period, politely but firmly suggest another time, or even decline if it's not urgent. The Stoics recognize that discipline in daily habits fosters a more resilient mind. Once you treat your own well-being with seriousness and consistency, you'll notice a clearer mental state that can handle life's demands more effectively. Additionally, consider building a simple routine like morning meditation, journaling, or an evening walk. This personal ritual signals to you and others that you respect your mental and physical boundaries. Strategy 4. Identify and distance yourself from energy vampires. While it's noble to help those in need, some individuals chronically drain your energy and offer nothing in return. Stoic philosophy places great emphasis on phronesis, or practical wisdom, knowing when to act and when to step back. Distinguish between people who genuinely need temporary assistance and those who habitually exploit your kindness. Protecting your energy is essential for your own health. Sometimes, a person labeled an energy vampire is merely someone going through a rough patch who hasn't yet developed resilience. However, many others have no desire to change. They consistently wallow in problems and expect everyone else to fix them. Stoic wisdom suggests that if you become aware someone is repeatedly dismissing solutions or actively avoiding personal responsibility, your involvement might only perpetuate their cycle. you can compassionately detach. A straightforward approach is to reduce the frequency or duration of your interactions. If they try to guilt trip you with lines like, "You're never there for me," respond calmly that you've offered help, but they must also be willing to help themselves. This sets a boundary that fosters self-reliance rather than dependence. Additional reflections on balance and Stoic moderation. Stoicism argues for living in accordance with reason and nature. Generosity in balanced measure is a virtue, but generosity taken to extremes can be detrimental. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the middle way, where virtue lies between deficiency and excess. For instance, courage sits between cowardice, deficiency, and recklessness, excess. Similarly, generosity lies between greed and self-sacrificial overgiving. In our modern context, this means you do not have to choose between being entirely self-serving or entirely selfless. There's a healthy midpoint where you prioritize your needs while also offering genuine help to others when feasible. This midpoint ensures you're not neglecting critical life responsibilities, nor are you abandoning empathy. By consistently checking in with yourself, emotionally, physically, mentally, you maintain a baseline of well-being that supports your capacity to be of service. Another potential pitfall in extreme kindness is the erosion of identity. If your entire sense of self becomes tied to being needed, you risk losing sight of who you are apart from what you offer. The Stoics believe that our identity is not merely the sum of our roles, but also our inner character and guiding principles. Spending time in self-reflection helps you differentiate between genuine generosity and a perpetual people-pleasing pattern spurred by fear or a need for validation. A note on accepting help from others. Generosity also means giving people the chance to assist you. Sometimes we become so used to being the helper, we refuse to let others reciprocate. Part of a balanced, reciprocal relationship is allowing friends, family, or colleagues to be there for you in your struggles. Stoicism encourages humility in recognizing we all need support at times. Asking for and accepting help doesn't diminish your autonomy. It shows trust and willingness to connect. Conclusion: the Stoic case for kindness with boundaries. Balancing generosity with self-care requires mindfulness and practice. Yet this balanced approach aligns well with the Stoic pursuit of eudaimonia, a flourishing, meaningful life. When you are perpetually kind without any boundaries, you risk neglecting your own well-being, fracturing your sense of identity, and inviting exploitation. However, by applying Stoic wisdom, moderation, self-awareness, self-control, and rational judgment, you can transform kindness into a sustainable virtue rather than a self-destructive habit. Give without unrealistic expectations, but remain discerning. Say no with confidence and composure when necessary. Guard your emotional and physical resources because only a well-nurtured self can effectively nurture others. Let the word balance guide you. Extremes rarely lead to mental peace or healthy relationships. Above all, remember that your life is yours to live. Too much kindness might seem commendable at first glance, but it can quickly lead to burnout, resentment, and feelings of being used. On the other hand, well-modulated generosity can light up your relationships and enrich your sense of purpose. A personal message to you. If these points resonate with you, know that you're not alone. Many of us have been caught in a cycle of overgiving and under-receiving. By adopting these 4 strategies and remaining mindful of the pitfalls explored above, you can regain balance. Are you feeling emotionally or physically exhausted after being too nice? Do you notice a pattern where certain individuals only appear when they want something? Have you neglected your personal goals or mental health because you can't bear to disappoint others? If so, it's time to pause and realign your priorities. Remember, caring for yourself does not make you selfish. It makes you capable of true generosity. Join our community. Like, subscribe. We've reached the end of our journey, and I sincerely hope these reflections have been valuable. I invite you to like this video if any insight here made you think or helped you in some way. Your simple gesture ensures that more people can discover the power of Stoic wisdom and learn how to balance kindness with self-care. Subscribe to our channel for a daily dose of thought-provoking content. By subscribing, you'll never miss an update on strategies for managing relationships, cultivating inner peace, and integrating ancient Stoic principles into modern life. Generosity is beautiful when it springs from a healthy, balanced heart. Let these Stoic lessons empower you to be kind without sacrificing your own well-being. Ultimately, your happiness, energy, and peace of mind are as valuable as the assistance you provide to others. So stand firm, practice wise discernment, and remember, kindness is a virtue only if it doesn't consume you in the process.